Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'm going to be talking about what to do when we feel overwhelmed and feel like giving up. But hey, if this is the first time that you're here, my name is Tim and I'm a pastor here in New Jersey, and the whole vision behind my channel is to help grow your faith one video at a time. And so if that's something that appeals to you, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so that you can get more videos. So the question that I want to address today is, what should we do when we feel overwhelmed? Well, in Psalm 142, this was written by King David, and he prayed this prayer when he was in a cave. And the reason why he was in a cave was because he was running away from his enemies. Now, we don't know exactly who his enemies were, but we can safely assume that they were sent from King Saul. So King David was alone, he was troubled, and he was overwhelmed. Let's look at 3 verses that explain exactly how David felt. In verse 2, David says, "Before him I tell my trouble." And then in verse 4, he says, "No one is concerned for me, no one cares for my life." And then in verse 6, he says, "I am in desperate need, rescue me, for they are too strong for me." So again, he is alone, he's troubled, and he's overwhelmed. So there are 2 takeaways that I want to share with you today. The first one is to implement silence and solitude in your daily rhythms. I think it's worth noting the location of the psalm. As I mentioned before, King David wrote this psalm when he was in a cave. And obviously he was there for safety reasons, but it's in the silence and in the solitude that he actually turns to God and cries to him for help. And I think solitude is one of those spiritual disciplines that we've neglected, especially as we're living in this fast-paced society. And I'll be completely honest, it's really difficult and it's a challenge for me to stay still and to be quiet before the presence of God. But this is what Richard Foster says, and I think it's so profound, and he says this: "Inward solitude has outward manifestations. There is the freedom to be alone, not in order to be away from people, but in order to hear the divine whisper better." And the reason why I love that quote is because in the silence and in the solitude, we could actually use it as an opportunity to go deeper in our relationship with God. And I think we do have to be clear here. Solitude is not the same as isolation, right? Isolation is when you withdraw from everything and from everyone to be by yourself, whereas solitude, you see it as this time, as this space just between you and before God. And so I would encourage you to really implement silence and solitude in your daily rhythms. So the second takeaway is to pray heartfelt prayers. When you read this prayer, you could almost feel David's anguish. You could almost feel his loneliness. You could feel his emotions. And some of the phrases that he says in the psalm are, "I cry aloud," right? "I am in trouble. No one cares for me." And this is what David does. He identifies and then he illustrates his feelings bluntly before the presence of God. He's completely honest, he's raw, and he's transparent before God, right? God wants to hear your heartfelt prayers. So there's really no need to hide anything from the presence of God. We don't have to mask our emotions because God knows it all, right? God wants our anguish. God wants our distress. God wants to know when we're feeling overwhelmed. I mean, that's the privilege that we have as sons and daughters, right? I mean, that's the reason why Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose again from the dead, so that we could have complete access to him, so that we don't have to fear coming into his presence, but that we could approach his throne with boldness and with confidence. So we don't have to be afraid hiding anything from the presence of God. God wants us to be honest. God wants our heartfelt prayers. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you were encouraged and that your soul was fed. And so the next time when you feel like giving up, the next time when you feel overwhelmed, may you remember to implement silence and solitude and to pray heartfelt prayers. Thanks, take care, and God bless.